Excellent. An ale for me. And for my officers. In fact, ales for everyone.
10 Backward. With Rick and Will and Gemma.
Oh, yes.
Hello and welcome to 10 Backward, a Star Trek podcast based in the UK, featuring myself, Will Turland, a lady sitting to the right of me, Gemma Turland.
Hello.
A man who is over the internet, Rick Everson.
Hello.
And a second man who is also over the internet, Rick Palmer.
Hello.
And much like our previous episode, we've literally all just finished watching Star Trek Picard, episode 2.
One.
And we're going to immediately sponge out all of our thoughts all over the recording,
Brain.
and then put it together in a sort of haphazard, ill thought out episode.
Yeah. Well, that's your job to put it together.
That's true.
So haphazardly and ill thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I have to admit to listeners that I actually did watch it yesterday.
You did,
and then also
cheeky
today.
Sausage.
Well, I'd seen.
You've managed to concrete your thoughts.
You'll have the most coherent thoughts and the most intelligent observations.
We're relying on you, Will.
Don't set your expectations too high on. I might have coherent thoughts, but vocalizing them is another story. That's why I'm a podcaster.
What better medium?
So, what did everyone think of episode 2?
I
All right?
flipping loved it.
No, it was splendid.
Yeah.
Does anyone else remember? I feel like Picard's Romulan housekeeper lady is more Irish in this episode than the previous.
Oh
one.
no, she was pretty Irish in the last one.
She was
Okay.
but cheeky
Absolutely,
Cheeky
fully
feckers.
Irish.
Oh,
Cheeky feckers.
Cheeky fuckers.
It was beautiful. You told me there was only one F-bomb in this episode.
I when I first watched it, I wasn't sure whether she'd said feckers or not,
No.
and I kind of couldn't believe that she had, so I just assumed that she hadn't. And then watching it again, I was like, oh, she really did say feckers. Wow.
Cheeky fuckers.
So on Romulus there was a island basically.
Apparently.
It would appear so, unless she kind of, I don't know, just sort of appropriated that.
I mean, maybe the universal translator just describes various regional accents to people almost on a whim.
Maybe
I quite like that.
Maybe you can choose. Maybe you can choose one.
Yes.
Although surely they are just speaking. Oh, well, I guess I don't know.
I like to think that maybe because there is a Space Scotland, isn't there?
There is a Space
She
Scotland.
comes from Space Island.
But I was going to say maybe that they can't be using the universal translator because in the previous episode, at one point, Picard spoke French.
Ah, but he only spoke it to his dog.
And his dog is like, I don't know what this is.
His French accent is lousy.
I'm a dog.
Ironically, the dog is Irish.
Yeah. But yeah, I also really liked this episode. I felt that in this one, like I really enjoyed episode 1, but I had some nitpicks, and I felt like it was maybe still finding its feet. But then this one, it just had me. I was fully in, and I loved it.
It also ironed out one of your nitpicks, which was how it was the explosion at the end of the first episode. How did no one? Well, not how did no one notice it, but how did they cover it up? And it showed how they covered it up.
Yes,
well, in a way.
They at least revisited that plot point and
They did.
looked over some footage, and I liked that. That made me feel better about that nitpick from the first one. Yeah.
I was watching this and I kind of had this impression that compared to last week, I thought Picard seemed younger It's like he
Yeah.
has his little realization, and he's sort of ready to get back into action. And he just seemed to carry himself a little bit straighter, stand a little bit taller.
There was, yeah, but there was that scene where he called for the ship, where he got his badge out, and he was standing in the door.
Yeah.
He looked quite old and crumpled then, I thought.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that they cut out a scene where Picard takes a 5-minute wee. They're like, this isn't working. But it boosted. It made the length of the episode good. I mean, it took it up to 50 minutes. But yeah, but no, and also I think perhaps this is episode 2, isn't it? So I guess I guess at this point Picard's slightly more into the story. So
Yeah.
I think you're right, Rick. He's energized at this point, isn't he? So he's kind of
I think it was a very subtle thing. It was a nice touch in Stewart's performance.
Yeah. I mean, he's re-entered society in a way. He sort of sequestered himself away in his vineyard. I think in this episode he's called the Hermit of Barret or somewhere.
Le Bar.
Yeah.
Le Bar,
Yeah.
that's it. So he's known as almost as a sort of hermit-like character. And by episode 2, he's sort of coming out of that situation and getting back. He wants to get back into space. It's so cool.
Right, because that the angry admiral at the end says, "Why didn't you do what you do best, Picard, and go home?"
This is no longer your house, Jean-Luc. So do what you're good at. Go home.
Do some diplomacy.
Yeah, suggesting he's really great at going home, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm brilliant at going home. Go home all the time."
Yeah, do it almost every day from work.
Probably is what I do best, actually. Never failed.
Why don't you do what you do best and grow wine and then investigate a mystery? Oh wait, you are. Oh wait,
It's PR.
So, shall we talk a bit about his visit to Starfleet headquarters?
Yeah.
That was something. It was quite. I love the use of the TNG theme music and the original series fanfare when he steps through the transporter gate and he looks up at headquarters, and it's sort of, you can see it. It's sort of like, oh, I'm back at Starfleet, and the Star Trek music's going. That's sort of like, which is kind of nicely contrasted by the utter disappointment he has after his meeting, I think.
Yeah, and of course we see a holographic Enterprise D.
Enterprise. We see two holographic Enterprises.
Yeah,
Enterprise.
But again, that sort of feels. I think that was deliberate. That's meant to activate our nostalgia nodes and make us think, that we're sort of going back into TNG territory, and he's going to get a ship and head off, and the fact that isn't what happens is great.
Yeah. And because he gets to get morally angry with the Admiral.
Yeah,
which this is classic Picard. This is what we all signed up to see.
Yeah, and it's classic TNG in a way, because we were sort of 10 minutes or so in, and he's having a meeting, which is exactly what they were doing.
That's why he felt comfortable. I'm having a meeting again.
Yeah,
I'm sitting round a table.
But I thought it was a bit. I didn't like it that they stood up. I just thought, I don't think they do that. They just sit down and frown. I'm joking. I thought it was cool that they stood up.
It's quite good that his interview last week has come back to bite him on the ass there.
Yeah. And I because Gemma, you had a nitpick last week that it felt a bit too easy for Picard. Like everyone believed him.
Yeah,
and
he believed Daj, and then the AI woman believed him. That did not happen in this episode.
That's it. There were a lot of sort of conveniences in last week's episode, whereas in this one he's now come up against a barrier. And I really like the bit where he's like, oh yeah, and if you could just give me a ship, and if you have to bust me down to captain, I don't mind being that. I'll just be old Captain Picard again, and that's fine. Sheer fucking hubris.
And she really delivered that line well.
Oh, beautifully.
Yeah.
Sheer fucking hubris.
And Picard is and request denied.
And kind of rightfully so, I would say. You can't just turn up and say, I've uncovered a mystery and I need a ship and
Sorry about all the bad
I
things
don't
I
mind being
said about
captain.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I was the callbacks to some original movies were kind of there because his quest is there's like echoes of Spock's Kirk's quest to retrieve Spock
Yeah.
in 3.
Mm.
If there's some essence of my deceased former crew member, my friend, I have to go. I need a ship. So it's kind of reminded me of that
Yeah.
Star Trek 3 moment where Kirk's talking to the Admiral.
I
And
think
then
that's where they would have. Sorry, Rick. That's where they would have gone if Nemesis had done well, right? If Nemesis
I
had
would
been a
imagine.
success. I think that was what they were going to do next. Like,
Yeah.
they had the idea that
Yeah.
The search for data.
And I think the suggestion of I want a ship and you bust me down to captain is a bit of an echo of Kirk and 4, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's a little nod to the fans. Like
Yeah.
we know that actually what you all want is him to get a ship and to be busted down to captain and everything. But we're not going to play it like that. But there's that little tease we're just going to dangle out in front of you.
Yeah. And I think if that we'd be here now moaning about
We
how
would.
it's
How
like,
we're
oh,
just
how
treading over the
predictable.
same ground.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
would they give him a
Yeah.
ship?
Mm.
And that isn't what we're moaning about.
Oh,
We're
this
not moaning
is
about
no,
anything. 'cause
no.
they-
This is better storytelling. By
Yeah.
far.
Yes. Well, this was always it was never going to be TNG Part 2, was it?
Mm.
Yeah.
But it was quite a nice little nod at that sort of that notion, the way they did that.
Mm.
I thought. So I'm not disappointed it didn't go that way, and I'm kind of amused by the suggestion in a way.
Yeah. And it's just, it made for good drama as well. He has a realistic barrier against what he needs to do next, which is get into space and carry on being a space detective and uncover
Yeah.
this mystery.
And he gets to put together a motley crew of
Yeah.
ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah.
A ragtag bunch of space desperados.
Yay!
What did you guys think of the a bit where we get a bit of a name check of Worf, LaForge,
Yes.
who else gets
Riker.
It's like
and
Riker, Worf, Geordie.
yeah, and Picard says, I thought about that, and they would do it. They would come with me, but I don't want to drag them into this. I don't want to sort of risk anyone else. And I I quite liked that. I thought
that was making a statement for the series, wasn't it?
yeah, I think so. But
And
but
also
also
for
but it felt believable to his character that he doesn't want anyone else to get killed like Data did.
Yeah.
And B, they've all got their own careers and lives now, and he doesn't want to drag them into something which he knows would kind of jeopardize that. And I thought, okay, it's really it's kind of the series saying we're not going to get the old gang back together. But I like the justification for it. I thought, that works for me.
It's quite.
I mean, I think they will. I mean, I think they will. They will bring in because we know Riker and Troy are going to be in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah.
I don't.
They're not going to be in it, are they? They're not going off.
But what I mean is, I think that they'll. I do think that they will have that element of fan service in that they won't ignore that these characters are out. I think we will see that. There's always the potential to see those characters. It won't be. They won't play the major part in it. They won't be kind of supporting characters as we knew them.
Yeah. I also like it's an interesting contrast to All Good Things when Picard, when faced with a mystery, literally does gather his whole crew back together.
Yeah.
And they all do it because, and of course, they're in that situation. They all think, it's the aromatic syndrome. We don't believe, but out of loyalty, they do all go and they do all put themselves in danger out of loyalty and against common sense in that situation. So in a way, he's completely right.
So, does he have memory of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the only one who experienced it, but
You,
at the end of
you
All Good
think
Things, he says to the rest of the crew, "Oh, Q sent me on 3 time periods, and I saw you in the future, and so on."
And they're like, okay.
Yeah, whatever, Picard.
But do you think he has memory of that? Do you think that that's weighing on him
Maybe.
slightly? And of course, they speaking of the syndrome.
Yeah.
Yes, is this because it's his parietal lobe that's an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that's the same issue that they took. That is that same health issue that they bring up in All Good Things.
I'm sure it was a direct reference, because he actually says to his doctor, "I was told a long time ago it might be something that would cause a problem."
Yeah,
Uh,
that is literally what happens in All Good Things, isn't it?
yes, because
I
he has it in the future, but in the present timeline, Crusher checks him based on what he's told her about the future and finds that genetic defect in the parietal lobe that would lead to
Yeah.
Raynaud's syndrome. So there's that warning, essentially.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Good Doctor, she was not listed.
No. And who else thought that she said Beverly? He said Beverly when he
When
called
he hit
someone
on his telephone
com badge.
Not
I
me.
thought he said Beverly, but Will says not.
First time I watched it, I thought he said Beverly, and then this time I didn't think that.
Rafi, it's Jean-Luc. Please don't hang up. I need your help.
No, I didn't hear Beverly.
It was
yeah,
it was
wow.
Rafiki, I think. If anyone's been reading the prequel comic, I think the last issue came out this week. The character he sees at the end, she is a character in that, so the name kind of registered with me because I'd been reading the comic.
Okay.
Although I do think one of our patrons is going to be very, very upset that Crusher did not get a mention.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But she could still turn up. I mean, I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I mean, there's no reason that she shouldn't. It's just
No, she's
And
a
it'd
pretty
be-
massive person in his life.
It'd be
she?
cool if they'd held back that reveal and it was going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
It is. She is a bit conspicuous by her absence.
Yeah, I
but
think so.
Yeah. It
we'll
kind of
see.
feels like they've almost deliberately gone out of the way, which makes me think they are building to a surprise, but then I don't want to get my hopes up.
No, I don't. I need to keep my excitement levels because otherwise I'll be
Yeah.
gutted if that doesn't come out.
So it's a difficult one now, because especially with these sorts of projects these days, secrecy is so paramount. They literally force actors to go out and just tell lies about their doings and their whereabouts.
Yeah.
Then you start looking at all statements from any actor with an air of mistrust, thinking, "Oh, but were you really not called? Are you really not told? Are you trying to throw us off the scent? Did they slip Data and Riker and everyone into the trailers because they're going to save this surprise for the end?"
Guys, just to wind it back to the start. This episode opens with the attack on Utopia Planitia.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great sequence.
It was.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great shot where you kind of see a load of starships, which is always awesome to see. You kind of dive down into Mars, and then it's first contact day. So
Yeah.
there's lots of. I'm sure that sequence is full of Easter eggs, but we get to see a little bit of that attack, and it seemed like basically a synth called F8 Fate, I guess.
Fate, yeah. I didn't pick up
nice to see that.
Turns off the planetary defense system.
Is
that what's used to shoot down sort of rogue asteroids and stuff, or is that actually to defend Mars from attack? Because I didn't.
Both. It was pretty. It covered all of Mars, didn't it? So you'd think it would be.
Yeah, true.
Is Mars protected like Earth from asteroids? Was it Saturn or Jupiter that takes
I think it's
all the
Jupiter
hits?
that takes all the hits.
Well, there is an asteroid beam that we see in Enterprise.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I hadn't realised that.
It could be used for both, couldn't it?
Do you think it's a relatively recent addition to Mars then? Because I don't remember that being mentioned. That sort of grid of satellites that can defend Mars. I mean, I'm not. It's a minor point. But I'm just
Why would it?
curious.
But yeah,
Suppose we haven't seen Mars
No, we
really
never
in,
have.
in
And
No.
it's referenced all through Next Gen that Mars is where the main shipbuilding is. Utopia
Ah.
I guess you would
British.
protect it, wouldn't
Oh, then it would be pretty well defended.
You would
wouldn't
be
it?
very daft not to protect it, I think.
Do you guys think I thought that when F8 was at that computer terminal, it looked like he received some kind of signal, and
Yeah, he was
his eyes
activated, wasn't he?
changed colour, turned into kind of data eyes
Mm.
before he went bad. And I interpreted that as it's like he's had a like we've seen a few episodes of TNG where data can kind of be triggered,
Mm.
and kind of like his I don't know, some kind of protocol kicks in, and he
Or a virus has been downloaded.
I very much
Carrying-
think we're heading to find that the synth rebellion was externally motivated.
Yeah, it was not. It was not a rebellion at all.
No.
It was,
Although we
an
do
attack.
see the poor old synth getting bullied,
Like,
being
yeah.
treated mean by the
Very mean.
Starfleet
jerk.
guys.
Well, only one, I think, right? I think
Well,
there's one
Yeah.
there's one that's nice, there's one that's mean, and then there's one that's sort of
yeah,
Yeah, neutral.
yeah. Yes, but neutral in bullying is bullying, isn't
But there was one that was all right. I think I noticed that too. There's a line where it's saying they don't understand. I thought
They're not people.
Dude creeps me out. Hey, he can hear you. And you can't offend them. They're not people. And
it? Called them plastic people.
Yeah.
Or something earlier on.
But I think we saw sort of similar things the way people thought about the emergency medical holograms.
Yeah.
And Voyager, and there's still some question marks over the treatment of that. When they decommissioned the Mark Ones and sent them to like mine dilithium on asteroids and stuff like that. It's like,
Which I guess could still be going on.
Well, we see it is because there's holographic workers in the archives, which we saw in the first episode.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So
That's the Federation for you.
Yep.
Yeah, they literally build their own slaves, either holographic.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
robots.
it's weird to see that. Like this series seems to be very much a jumping off point from the Measure of a Man.
Well, I happened to watch Measure of a Man the other day, and they were making the moral arguments about if you duplicate data, imagine like an army of datas, being sent out to do dangerous stuff. Yeah, you're making a new race, but you're making it to go and do the dirty work you don't want to. And that was very much that was one of the key arguments in it, because they have ended up doing that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So it's not a pretty picture of the Federation when you look at it that way.
No. As a really quick aside, before I forget, I really liked the effect, the kind of laser effect. It was like a sort of a laser, a cutting tool.
It was a
seemed
cutting
like
tool,
rather than a gun.
yeah.
And it kind of blasted through people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about that other than I just thought it was really cool.
I agree with you.
It was quite a more brutal and violent looking impact and beam than we've seen in a lot of other sci-fi.
Yeah, because it seemed to go right through
it
a
did.
person. It was quite quick, like, and then you're done.
Yeah. Mars is tough.
Yeah,
it is.
I can't think of any story that's been set on Mars where it's been like, "Hey, it's Mars. It's cool. It's footloose and fancy free. Come to Mars."
Mars? You mean the paradise, Mars?
Mars.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, so going back to the sort of murky Federation, it feels like in this episode, a lot of the sort of core of the story that's kind of unraveling in front of us is that there's a conspiracy that runs right to the top. We find out that the Tal Shiar aren't the sneakiest of the Romulan. Tal Shi what?
Tal Shi nah.
Yeah, good. Because there's an even more super secret organization
whose name escapes me.
I had to admit that made me chuckle. That made me chuckle a little bit. That sort of You think the Tal Shiar are just the secret police.
Yeah.
Beneath them is
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
thing, which are actually the real secret police. It's like in The Prisoner when there was never number who was it? There was the number. There was the number 7. No, there was a number that was always different all the time.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Was it number 2?
Number 2. Okay.
I think because the number 2 would be played by like a different actor
Yeah,
each time,
Yeah, yeah.
as if that person had died since the last episode. Yeah. But yeah, I wanted them to say, the Tal Shiar, these new guys make the Tal Shiar look like, I don't know, like the regular police. But they didn't say that because I guess it would have been sort of clunky.
That's what she was going for, there, wasn't it? Like, no, I agree, man. I mean, I don't
It
mind.
was-
I think it's cool, but it just made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of laughed at it, but I also
Mm.
liked it at the same time. I thought, okay, that's where we're going with this. I think it's going to be cool.
Section 31. What about Section 75?
That's
Yeah.
that's a question. Like, where's Section 31 in all this?
Yeah, exactly.
Consumed by the Tal Shiar
Yeah,
and turned to their own.
because we know that they sort of that the I think they mentioned like the Klingons and the Federation, and that it's quite far-reaching, and we could
Yeah.
suppose. I suppose you could.
Gorn.
mentioned the
Oh,
Gorn.
yeah, that was a nice
Yeah.
mention.
Yeah.
I want to see like the sort of Gorn secret police.
I don't think Gorn
Right.
would do secret police,
Bet
would
they
they,
would.
Shirley?
That's how they get you, because you wouldn't think that, would you?
It's hard to imagine like a space dinosaur being secretive. I mean, no offense, but
If we see an episode with a gun and it's got like a kind of an all-star kind of detective hat and a Mac, and he's maybe smoking a cigar in a doorway, and it's in black and white, then I think
that is so cool. Wait a minute, there was a
Oh,
Whoopi Goldberg was in a film where she was like a detective partnered with a dinosaur.
that's right. Yeah,
What was it called? Theodore Rex.
That's right. Yeah. I've never actually seen it. And this might come as a surprise. I've heard it's not that great.
It's not great, but its premise is. I have seen it. It's not great, but it's worth watching just for its premise. Like,
Forever think of it as Guinan and the Gorn.
that would be so cool. That would be a nice reference.
I hope that's the
Guinan
next
and the
Star
Gorn,
Trek spin-off.
solving crimes and
Not in a non-subtle way, because one of them is a dinosaur.
Surely some dinosaurs were like sneaky and little.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
yeah, fair enough. I'm not ragging on dinosaur stealth, but it's just hard to imagine that a dinosaur like a Gorn would worry about that. It would just
There was that sneaky dinosaur, the Diathinkosaurus.
Sorry, I hadn't realised my dad had managed to get up to the podcast today. He must have hacked in. He's picked up the phone while we're on the dial-up
He
modem.
did that. He did that when we hosted a radio show. He genuinely did that.
Yeah, that really did happen. He did used to message us with like actual dad jokes. We were quite desperate for material, so we'd always read them out. Anyway, I guess we've digressed a little. But yeah, I enjoyed the sort of conspiracy thing, and I like that this is a Star Trek show where kind of like we're into episode 2 and there's some detective work, and it doesn't it feels different from a lot of other Star Trek that we've seen, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Absolutely not. No.
I think it's we're seeing new stories here.
In fact,
That's really cool.
as far as I'm concerned, I know that it is going to go off planet, but if it didn't go off planet, I wouldn't be bothered. I think I like this storyline.
Like you say, I mean, as much as we say that Mars is a planet we haven't seen very much in Star Trek, Earth is a planet we haven't seen very much in Star Trek.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Definitely. And also, civilians in Star Trek. We haven't seen a whole lot of sort of civilian
No.
characters in Star Trek, other than like Cisco's dad.
Yeah. Oh, this is
Nathan.
Nathan.
Well, you don't see much of Nathan.
True.
You get to see scientists and ambassadors,
Yeah,
but that's about it.
Yeah.
and it's
Apart
not
from-
always clear to me whether they are sort of Starfleet scientists
Mm.
or not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just cool to see. Yeah, we're seeing civilians and that's something we've not really
No,
had much of a story around before. So that's pretty cool.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about how this episode is showing Starfleet and the Federation up as the cold-hearted bastards I always knew they were?
You couldn't wait for the Federation to be shown up, could you, Trevor?
The Romulans were our enemies, and we tried to help them for as long as we could. But even before the synthetics attacked Mars, 14 species within the Federation said cut the Romulans loose or we'll pull out. It was a choice between allowing the Federation to implode or letting the Romulans go.
The Federation does not get to decide if a species lives or dies.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do.
But I like that we get at least a different angle on it. We sort of do hear from the Federation side of what the reasons were. You know, whether we agree with them or not. And they it's basically politics.
It is politics.
It felt realistic.
And you can see how ruthlessly practical those politics were. You know, the many as opposed to the few. And hey, they're not our friends anyway. But if you're going to, if you hold yourselves up as this bastion of morality, you can't choose who you rescue.
And that's basically what Picard says, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But who were those 14 members? Name and shame. Name and shame.
Yeah. I bet it was the Ruddy Vulcans.
Yeah, I bet it was.
They were the first on the list.
What about the Remans?
They've not been mentioned in this, have they? No.
That is a good point, because I would imagine a supernova in the Romulan system would have wiped out Remus as well.
Yeah.
Maybe they all just forgot about. Maybe they had the same reaction. Like sort of 10 years later, they were like, "Oh yeah, what about the Remans?" Well, whoops.
Like when you forget to like you're supposed to meet someone, or like
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait. Oh, damn it. Oh, the Remans.
Oh well, at least they're all dead.
Yeah, or so yeah, like or they do that evacuation of Romulus, that humanitarian mission, and they go, well, that's cool. Where are the Remans? Shit, the Remans! I knew there was something we meant to guess. Like when you go, like on your shopping list, you're like, oh, I knew it. Oh, eggs. I knew I needed to get eggs. Shit. You can't go around the corner to the co-op and get Remans. They're all dead.
Yeah.
I half wonder if maybe because they have to revisit some elements of Nemesis with B4 and Data's death. Maybe they were just like, let's not overdo it. Nemesis was not popular. Let's just leave the
You know one thing about this episode and the previous episode that I absolutely didn't twig on is when Picard's talking to Alison Pill's character, Dr. Girardi, right? And she mentions that Darj would be one of twins. I didn't even twig that Data's one of twins, sort of, isn't he?
Oh, of course he is. Yeah.
And I didn't even twig on that. I didn't get that. But he is, I suppose. I mean,
Yeah.
So I feel like, I feel like it's like, I feel like lore has to be part of this story somewhere, right?
I was having this discussion at work with someone today. It's like, what about lore? They've not mentioned it yet. And I was like, yeah, because especially when you look at Measure of a Man and the desire to dismantle Data and see if he can be replicated, after the end of Descent, when they literally dismantle lore, sure, there must have been pressure from Maddox and from Daystrom Institute to to have Law sent back for study.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But so as far as we know, they've only got a drawer full of V4 bits.
But and as well, I guess the other sort of storyline in this episode is the one with Darge's sister, who's at that Borg, what was a Borg cube, but is now a sort of a research facility. I really enjoyed all the stuff there. I thought it was great.
I really like that we kind of get into what they're doing there, and we get a bit of there's some nice sort of world building on there. I like the stuff about. I like the that sort of Romulan. He's almost like a tour guide.
It made me think of Jurassic. It made me think of Jurassic Park.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like Borg Park.
Because also, it's definitely going to go wrong.
Oh, exactly. Oh, they totally set that up with the badges. Like, if the badges turn green, then you better run.
It's like, what? Huh? Why?
Yeah, it's that. I'm not going to explain that, but I guess that won't ever come up again. So don't worry about it. It's so going to come up.
Yeah, I guess like Borg cubes are gigantic, aren't they? They're like 27 cubic kilometers of space. So I guess there's areas where there are still drones and stuff.
Oh, they'll be going through that for years.
Why did the badges turn green when there is something wrong? To me,
Because
that's
it's alien. It's alien technology.
Okay, yeah. So
You're looking at it from a Terran,
Right.
so Terran centric.
You're absolutely right. In Romulus, red means go, green means stop.
Yeah. Red is good and green is bad.
Well,
and blue is best.
They covered Doctor Who once. Like the rest of the galaxy doesn't see red as a danger color like humans. The rest of them is camp. Every time humans call for red alert, they all started dancing.
Enough with your space trivia, Doctor Who. I'm a human, okay?
One thing I really liked, particularly on the Borg thing, was we see a variety in Romulan haircuts.
Indeed.
Yes, that's true. No longer just the bowl cut.
Yeah. Vulcan and Romulans have always had a shared hairstyle, apparently amongst everybody. And apart from
finally, they got themselves a stylist.
Yes.
I wonder if most of the Romulans we've seen before are sort of from the Romulan military, I assume. So I think
or the Tal Shiar.
Yeah, or the Tal Shiar. Maybe we're seeing some, more civilian Romulans now, and so it makes sense that they'd have different accents and different hair, and say feckers.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that this facility seems to be Romulan, and the Romulans, based on what the Picard's friend said, abhor artificial intelligence. They're sort of they're not investigating it, but they're investigating something that is similar, or they don't like
She didn't say that Romulans abhor. She said like the kind of core of Tal Shiar abhor it for there's some terrible deep hidden secret. But she didn't say there, and therefore there's been no artificial intelligence of any form allowed on Romulus in Romulan society. But she didn't kind of imply that.
But it's not a secret thing, is it? It's a societal thing.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued by that mystery too.
Things can get watered down through. Well, they're also practical people, so presumably they're finding ways of making money out of this. Also, I don't know. Maybe they're searching for something.
Well, I'm presuming they're not sort of finding Borg drones and taking all their Borg bits off them, like just to help the people.
No, but they are doing that in the meantime, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like that.
We and then we find out that the sort of sexy beardy Romulan dude.
He's all ruffled.
He's a wrong'un.
He is a wrong'un.
He's in on it.
Is he gonna?
my prediction is that he's gonna be a turncoat, and because he's fallen in love with Daj 2.0, he's gonna join Picard's crew eventually and be a goodie,
as we saw in the trailers.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, he was there.
He was there.
It doesn't
in the
indicate
trailers.
but he's definitely seems more sympathetic.
Yeah. I think he might
Than his
end up being a
mean,
goodie.
horrible sister.
Ah, she's a bitch.
I quite like her. Like I like
Yeah.
I like that sort of character, and they're brother and sister, aren't they, as well? So
Yeah.
I like that. I like that kind of family vibe.
It's good that in a show where the main character is Captain Picard, who's definitely I think it's fair to say all of us. It's probably one of our all-time favorite, most awesome characters.
Yeah.
But the other characters are making an impression. I like the other characters, and they're memorable. That's quite an achievement.
This was my biggest fear going into Picard, that they were going to try and have this group of young, hip, sexy crew under him. They're either going to be completely overshadowed by Picard, or they were just going to get so much screen time, Picard would eventually just sort of slowly fade into the background through the course of it. But I mean, we're only on episode 2. But so far, they've drawn my interest and been sort of genuinely been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a weak character among them, actually.
No, I don't think so. Like I was sort of worried that, we'd be like, anytime when Picard's not on screen, like, boring. Get back to Picard. But no. I also this has just come to me, and I have to say it now before I forget. I like that Picard, when he finds out that the attractive blonde scientist likes Earl Grey tea, he pretty much creams his beige slacks, doesn't he?
That's the thing, because that's the thing I like.
Yeah,
That's what you say.
Like, you like that thing, and I like that thing.
Oh, we're friends.
He's like,
Oh,
I thought it was, but it was a nice. Well, I kind of ruined it, but it was a nice sort of warm moment.
I bet it was.
Mind you, sure it was jizz. He's getting on.
Oh, Gemma.
It's the last part of a man to die. Don't worry. That's why they should take the. That's why they should check the pulse when a man dies, not his neck.
Is that the bit you listen to? Oh no, it's all gone now.
Yeah, even his dick is gone. His neck was gone.
Oh my god, guys! If anything happens to me, please don't let Rick be the one to check if I'm alive.
Why me? Like, I'd be sensitive.
But everyone else would be like, "Oh, Rick's definitely dead." Rick would be like, "Wait a minute."
And it'd be memorable. It would make the local newspapers in Lincoln.
Yes, it would. Local newspapers.
You know what, Rick? Now I'm definitely going to try and do that. I mean, I don't want you to die, but if you do, then if you're close to death, I will check that way.
I don't think you guys can't come around anymore. We'll do them remotely from now on.
Safest.
Right? I don't know. You guys, and your adherence to classical ways of checking if someone's alive on the neck of all places. You got a free thinker. You got a free thinker here, and you're like, oh no, we don't want that. We don't want that. Like you're like the Federation. Like that could be how they do it. That could be we don't see this in Star Trek very often. That could be how Dr. McCoy checks everybody.
I wouldn't. Be
yeah, Dr. McCoy. Yeah, I think maybe he might.
I bet Riker would.
Yeah.
I think no, he does it the other way around. He checks people's health with his penis.
Yeah, he does. That's his medical. I can hear your heart beating with this.
Sticking in your ear.
With his trombone.
What were we talking
Yeah,
about?
what are we talking about?
Picard.
Oh yeah, Star Trek Picard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Grady.
yeah,
They like it. Yay.
yeah.
There was a point, I think is interesting point about the society.
Hmm?
The bit where they beam into Daj's apartment. Now,
Yeah.
in a society where beaming in and out is commonplace, you would think that in private accommodation they would have some sort of barrier to that, so people can't just do that.
I'm going to suggest that they probably do, but
Yeah. Oh no, I know that they probably overrode it,
Mm.
but it's an interesting societal point, isn't it? That you would have to think about that.
Yeah. Or is that just another? I'm assuming that maybe civilians generally might not have access to. You might not have transporters everywhere on Earth, but Starfleet can certainly get wherever they want
Yeah,
to.
but should they be allowed to?
Well, maybe
Would
they
should
shouldn't.
they, could they?
But I bet Starfleet don't care about that.
Fucking stuff.
They'll beam into your house as soon as telephone you.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
assuming
Also-
Picard got in because of his friend's Tal Shiar skills. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's
Oh, no.
justified to just invade someone's privacy like that.
But you would think there would be some sort of barrier, like it would be the equivalent of locking your doors.
Mm.
They would have to, in private accommodation, have some sort of dampening field or something like that, so that ne'er do wells can't.
Yeah, can't beam in
Can't
and
beam in.
rob you.
Yeah.
Although, if they're going to rob you, what was the point of that? They can't sell the goods. There's no money in there.
Oh yeah,
This is true.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe it's complacency. Earth, the problem is Earth. On Earth, it's a paradise.
You're right.
Also,
Earth, they don't even consider it an issue.
Yeah.
also on those the gates that the beaming in gates.
Oh, like that we see at the
The-
Federation
yeah.
headquarters.
There were,
Yes,
there were people just walking through those, just walking along and walking through those. What if somebody beamed in at the very second you were walking through
Yeah,
it?
I'd want to be very cautious. I imagine there's a safety cut off.
I
should
was
imagine
thinking
there is.
that. But it'd be like walking under a ladder. You just
just
wouldn't do it,
wouldn't know,
would
you
you?
wouldn't know.
Risk it.
I would not risk that.
Yeah.
I like the half face people, the ones who have the dark chins.
Oh yeah.
Oh, two of them, didn't you? At least
Yeah.
two through the episode.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Ah.
Yeah, we saw Andorians too, didn't we? That was cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Which we hadn't seen. We never really. We saw super briefly in TNG, I think. As an option. There's an option for Big
Lau.
Daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, who still has not been mentioned. Interestingly.
Yeah.
Another thing, apropos nothing and completely irrelevant. I totally called that Daj's boyfriend was the same species as the technological wizard queen in
Disco.
in Disco.
Yeah. That was all the way back in episode 1, wasn't
Yeah.
it? But we're on episode 2 now.
I know, but I just wanted
All the
to
way
show
back.
you how brilliant I was at calling that.
Yeah, well spotted, Gemma. I didn't notice that.
For it.
No, I didn't.
Also, apparently in episode 1, in the scenes in New Boston, we get an image of a Ferengi symbol on one of the buildings, the Ferengi Alliance.
Yeah,
So, which I mean I saw but didn't recognize at the time. But that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of little markers that just sort of tie it to the universe, I think, which is really nice.
That's been one of the really great things about the Picard series, and maybe something I hadn't expected. That we really, it does feel different, but it feels like we're definitely in that Star Trek universe,
Yeah.
and we're exploring what's happened since we were last there in Nemesis. What's the world like now? What's the Federation like? What are things like on Earth? And really, there's a lot of world building going on.
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Absolutely.
That's my jam.
Yeah.
And that's what
Absolutely.
I'm really enjoying about this show.
Definitely feels deeper in that respect than TNG did. I
Well,
hesitate
I
to say
suppose in TNG they did they were flying around in a starship and they
in their
were
own
going to
little
different
bubble,
yeah
Starfleet bubble.
yeah, and we haven't really had a show quite like this before.
No.
I suppose except Deep Space Nine,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Which is more.
That was the one that really started to push the boundaries and look at what are things like beyond just Starfleet a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's unprecedented to have this much time on Earth and really see this side of the Federation in such a way. But as you say, it still feels like we're very much in the Star Trek universe for such a different kind of story. They've kept it locked in to the world, so it's familiar but so different.
But yeah, like Gemma was saying, in TNG, Picard like is the captain of a ship, and there is that bubble of the kind of the stories that you're going to get in that show, because they're on a ship and they're somewhere different most episodes, aren't they? And it did do more serialized stuff, and it did explore the issues that we're getting in this series, because it's partly inspired from an episode of TNG. So, but yeah, it's but this is a show where Picard doesn't have a ship. It's a different world, isn't it? He has a different perspective on things, and I guess we get a sort of a view of that in the show. It's really good so far. I mean, 2 episodes in, I'm loving it. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Same here. Like, I may be loving it as much as I dared to hope that I would, which is great. It's a great position to be in with a relationship with a TV show.
But another thing that was interesting is he meets his friend, who I'm guessing was the Doctor and the Stargazer. I love that scene. I thought that was really cool. I love anything where we get to see a bit of an insight into his time on the Stargazer, because that's cool. And you get the sense that he needs permission to leave the planet, and health-wise in this case, but there is that element of you're potentially not allowed to leave Earth.
I took it that it was to get a reactivation of his Starfleet commission.
Okay.
I think he was trying to travel, but because he was specifically going to go and ask to have it reactivated, and the guy said to him, all your things are within Starfleet requirements. So even cardiovascular, which, considering he's got the fake heart going in there, was good.
I thought that. Wait a minute.
Well, it didn't stop him being on active duty all those years, did it? So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But so that means that he could get a ship. Like, if he got could he still get a ship? Would that be okay? Or is that?
He can find a way onto a civilian vessel.
Yeah. He wouldn't be able to. Would he be able to captain it?
Well, if it's
or would
a
he
civilian
just commission it?
Vessel, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think I got the impression the medical thing was purely for Starfleet reactivation.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Sisko's dad was able to leave Earth and travel to the station, and he had a variety of health issues, didn't he?
Is he still? Is he still an admiral? Because if he's an admiral, does that mean that he's still sort of bound by Starfleet in terms of what he can do?
No, he's retired. He's resigned his commission, hasn't he? So, hence why having to ask for the reactivation.
Okay. So,
I really like that scene with the Doctor as well. I thought that scene was really well acted. Actually, I thought that the Doctor was really good. I really liked that. Picard was he was sort of warm and hopeful and happy, and the Doctor, he clearly had, he was troubled by this bad news that he had by Picard, and
afraid of telling him. And
we didn't see a lot of that character, but what we did see, I thought the actor made the most of that.
Yes, you could feel the relationship there in the long, long sort of friendship and love for each other there.
Well,
I think.
Yeah,
because
yeah, exactly.
I'm watching these with my wife, and she's not a Star Trek fan, and she very soon into that scene said, "Oh, we've seen him before in something." Then I was like, "No, he's completely new." But the way the scene was and how it's played, clearly if you don't know that he's not been in it before, it would look like surely these guys have playing these characters opposite each other for years.
Yeah.
So,
Which is great because in the context of the show, that is how Picard should
Yeah.
feel about this old friend who's a doctor.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the line he delivered at the end.
I don't know what kind of trouble you're planning to get into. Maybe if you're lucky, it will kill you first.
Because they'd had some wine. They'd had some wine by then, hadn't they? Or some brandy. Maybe some brandy, I think, or something.
There was. I think it was.
You can imagine him saying, if this mission doesn't kill you, then I hope it kills you before the brain thing kills you."
Cheeky fecker.
Cheeky fecker. More wine.
yeah. And they cut the next bit of the scene where the Doctor tried to take Picard's pulse in his pants.
Yes, the classic method in the future. I believe it's called.
The old fashioned method. I think.
I would like to know more about that guy's story actually, because he was like very anti going into space at all.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Oh, what happened to you? What happened to you when you left Starfleet that embittered you against space travel like this?" So
yeah,
I mean, it could well be followed up one day in like spin-off novels or something.
I guess maybe doctors see a lot of death, don't they? I mean, remember in the 2009 Star Trek movie when we first meet Bones, he's very anti-space travel. I mean, and I know that's a callback to like the original dislike of transporters and stuff. But I know, yeah. I mean, the doctors are. If anyone's going to be superstitious or dislike things, it's going to be doctors, right?
They know all the stuff that can go wrong. They ought to have a couple of those deciding whether or not they should start pulling bits out of a Borg cube. Because the doctors would be the one who said, "No, that's a fucking stupid idea."
I'm intrigued about that cube. I mean, I'm intrigued about where it is and what happened to it.
Yeah.
Is it maybe older than we think, or was it destroyed? Was it damaged in a nebula or an attack or something? I don't know that whole Borg cube situation. I'm fascinated by.
The history of that, and actually also what's been happening with the Borg in the last 20 years, if anything. So,
You mentioned the old ruffled one, the pretty ruffled one. Mentioned something about when a Borg cube suffers this something collapse.
Yeah.
They cut it off. So,
yeah, and it's like a graveyard to them, isn't it?
So it's kind of almost like what's the bee, the hive death thing?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Right, it sounds something like that, or if the Borg, because there were parts of it that seemed to have been destroyed from the outside.
Yeah,
it's quite large chunks being held together by force fields.
Yeah.
Or could that be because they've been deconstructing it for years? I wonder.
Yeah, we saw a sign saying, like 5,000 so many days since an assimilation.
Yeah,
that indicates many years actually, and also the fact that at some point early on they did suffer assimilations, which maybe should have been a sign that maybe they should give the fucking idea up.
Yeah.
It was a sign, but they just wrote on the sign. They wrote on the sign and they stuck it up.
There was one point when they were doing the whodits with the computer to find out Dash Point 2.
Yeah.
And they found out that her transmissions were from off-world.
I know, they seem to be amazed by that. I'm like, dude,
I know.
The Federation's been a spacefaring society for over 200 years. Why are you so surprised? Someone's gone into space. Yeah, I think that happens a lot these days, Jean-Luc.
I think it was because after that, then the screen went black. Like it would be like I'm guessing they would have had adverts on
Yeah, I
CBS.
suppose.
So I think they were like guys, we're about this is an ad out. We're going to advert. So you have to. I know it's not doesn't make sense that you'd be really like blown away by the fact that this transmission has come from outer space, but you've got to act like that because it's going to be exciting. And they're like, whatever. Yeah, we'll do it.
Can we take a second just to recognise the absolutely beautifully framed shot where you see Picard's reflection in his clock face?
Oh, I saw that. It was
just a stunning bit of film work. I really loved that. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
Was that reflection or was that CG?
Well, I think it was a reflection. I think they would have done that practically. Would have been the easiest way to do it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was nice, but I didn't really think about whether it was a genuine reflection or not.
I didn't. However they achieved it, I just thought it was a really effective shot and it looked really nice.
Yeah.
So Picard beams out to that very familiar place that looks like the planet where Kirk fought the Gorn, the planet where Picard and Kirk fought Soren.
Yeah. Do everything on it.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's in that planet, Vulcan, where Vulcan gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also the Mintarkan planet with where the Proto Vulcans.
Yeah.
Sure, they went there in DS9 as well when they crashed their when they had that Jem'Hadar ship. They crashed it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
As well.
It's very it's a common rock formation, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's a very well known spot. So yes, Picard beams out there and encounters. I assume it's. I know it's the Rafiki he communicated with earlier, who seems to have a problem with him.
Yeah, they are not friends, but she likes wine.
But she likes his rope bag of wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
What am I going to put my wine in? Oh, should I put it in like a hodl or like a plastic bag?
Maybe a
rope bag?
In fact, why don't I just gently drape some ropes around it? That'll be the safest way to transport a fragile glass bottle.
Yeah. And then I can turn around. I can turn around and drape it over my back, in a fancy way, saying, "I've got wine."
She'll see the label. She'll see it's the 86.
Okay.
It does. I guess he planned that.
Yes.
So
Is
that 86? I want to drink the 86.
I want to drink the 86.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Totally.
Yeah. So she's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sad that we didn't get a scene where Picard is in the taxi. I like he gets a taxi.
Oh yeah.
And he has to like have an awkward conversation with his taxi driver about where he's going. Where he's been.
For your holidays, mate.
In a society where there is no money, who's going to drive the taxis?
Very good question. Maybe it's like a Johnny Cab from Total Recall.
No, I want it to be a guy.
Yeah,
it could be. I mean, it could very well be.
Taxis if they're not going to get paid.
Well, Cisco's dad's a chef.
Yeah, but that's
very
different.
Stressful.
No, but that's different. That's feeding people. That's a totally different thing.
Well, maybe there are some people who just like to fly about and have chats with different people. They might just be persons.
Going anywhere nice on your holidays, mate?
Oh, a chance would be a fine thing, but I've got a dicky ticker and I can't leave. Can't leave.
Go on, tell me about it. Go on, mate. Let me tell you about my wife's leg. It's what I imagine how a taxi driver might tell. I don't know. I get the bus. So it's a different world.
Maybe people are taxi drivers to sort of get the things that. I mean, this is basically currency, but maybe they do the thing to sustain the life that they have, their accommodation and their. I mean, I know it's basically money, but their apartment and their replicator and and what they want to do, and they do that. They get they get that by
Ooh.
doing their taxi thing. And it's not like a
Get-
job, but
yeah.
it's sort of I don't know. It's
Get some sort of points and citizenship points, and you get allocated your living quarters through your citizenship points.
And if you don't have enough citizenship points, then people can beam into your house anytime they like.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I worry that this is true.
I think we should think about winding this episode up, actually,
Huh?
because
Are we boring you, Will?
well, frankly, Gemma, no. But we're an hour and 6 minutes in, and I'm the editor, and I'm just thinking, I've got to edit this.
I've got a deadline to meet, and I can't fill it up with flim flam.
Yeah, what he said.
I hope a large part of our podcast is entertaining flim flam, right? Like, I mean,
A large part of this episode was talking about listening to a man's penis to see whether he's dead or not.
You don't listen to it; you hold it and you take for a pulse. Like, I'm not listening to it.
I got
God! Thank God you're not a doctor. Will.
I know, right?
What are you listening to?
I suppose.
Holding it to your ear like a phone.
Hello? Are you live?
There a pulse there?
I guess I got hung up on the idea of Riker popping it in a Ferengi's ear.
We're all hung up on that idea.
Which also didn't happen anyway, but it was a visual that I couldn't get past. Because, Thomas Riker goes to DS9, doesn't he? But he doesn't put his dick in Quark's ear.
Thomas Riker.
Yeah, that's right.
Not in
Thomas
the
Riker.
final cut of the episode now.
Yeah, Ferengis like having their ears massaged, don't they? But not with a dick. Oh,
Some of them aren't choosy.
Yeah, I bet they're not. Even as we're having this conversation, I'm already thinking, do I cut this out? Or is this actually like some of our better material?
Yeah, keep it in, as Quark said to Thomas Riker.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, Lita comes to the bar and she's like, "What, Quark? You got a lot of earwax in that ear. I didn't realize Ferengi earwax was kind of that pale white." And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll just go and.
No, I think you may have crossed the line there.
I'll cut that bit out. Rule of acquisition number 162. It's okay to get just in the ears. They really were running out of ideas for acquisition towards it, because they just started coming up with things that are okay that have happened. Not really a rule.
More just permission.
Yeah.
Rule of acquisition 172. Don't put eggs in the fridge. You don't need to. Come on. Is that a rule?
We really have to end the podcast.
Yes, I think we do.
But in conclusion, I really enjoyed episode 2.
Yes, very good. It was fantastic.
Same here. I thought it was really good.
Well,
let's say goodbye.
Yeah, let's say goodbye. Let's say thank you to our listeners for listening.
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 And listeners, if you're out and about after listening to this episode and you do see someone in distress, please make your own mind up about how you check their life signs, because
we are not medical.
We're not. I mean, as much as I have advocated a new method, I would say the classic method is fine and probably better.
I'm gonna all the stuff that we talk about about checking people's penises. I'm going to cut that all out so that bit at the end that Rick says makes absolutely no sense.
Boo, boo! I say I'm being censored. I'm being censored with public health advice.
But yes, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll hopefully be back again to do more of these episodes.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, lots of fun.
I miss. I have to admit, I miss us all being together in the Casa de Turlin doing our recordings. But hopefully, we'll be all together soon.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. Thank you, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Do you realize how incredible this is? It's tradition!
You ever noticed her bum? What? Her bum.
Oh, no!
I will say
Fewer things.
okay.
Enough of this self-indulgence.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is www.lowerdexradio.co.uk. You can reach us on the Twitters at 10Backward, 10 being the number and backward being the word backward. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/10Backward podcast. You can also email us at crew@lowerdexradio.co.uk. On a personal, individual level, my Twitter is @WilTurland. Rick Everson's Twitter is @TrekFanRick. And Rick Palmer's Twitter is @Mr. Imhotep.
Hi, thank you again for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you might consider supporting us. We now have a Patreon where people can pledge small amounts to fund our ongoing projects like keeping our website up to date, new audio equipment as we're going along, and potentially opportunities to expand our content. You can go look at this at patreon.com/lowerdexradio. If you don't feel you can donate but would still like to support us, we would love it if you could subscribe to us on however you get your podcasts, through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or we're on various third-party apps. And if you could leave us a review on any of those, that would be fantastic and we'd be very appreciative.
Thanks again for listening, and please tune in for more podcasts from the 10Backward crew.
Let's make sure that history never forgets the name.
10Backward?
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
10Backward.
10Backward.
Sheer fucking hubris.